Hello, and welcome to PeachFuzz, presented by Lakepoint Sports and Prep Baseball Georgia. I'm Grayson Rosen, and I'm joined by Prep Baseball Georgia Scouting Director Hudson Graham and Prep Baseball Georgia Assistant Scouting Director Ian Smith. How you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic, man. Stoked to be here. Just glad to get this going. It's something we've wanted to get started since I got started here a few months ago, and we're just fired up to be here today.
Yeah, for
Awesome.
sure. Some been on the docket for Ian. I know we've been talking about it a while, so been a busy spring, but excited to get it off the ground and get this thing rolling.
Fantastic. Well, with this being the first episode, I kind of want to just go through what the regular stuff you can expect to see here is. So, we're going to be talking about the Georgia Power 25 a lot throughout the rest of this high school baseball season. We'll sometimes, if we have some big news, big commitments or anything, we could hit that at the top of the show, just give you guys all the information you need. And then we'll talk about some of the games that Ian and Hudson attend and anything that they maybe bring with them from that. And then we'll get into some of their best performances of the week. So each of them will bring some guys in, pitching and hitting, that had some great performances over this past week. And then we'll do a little bit of a preview at the end, talking about any kind of events happening this weekend or in the coming week. Tournaments, showcases, any big events for prep baseball. All right, guys, are you ready to talk about or actually, let's go ahead and introduce you guys. I'll start. Grayson Rosen, started here. I work over at Lakepoint and been doing sports podcasts for about 2.5 years, and not really much of a scout, but I've watched the game. I've been around the game. I played baseball for 11 years, so super excited to get this thing started. And Hudson, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, been with prep baseball about 4 or 5 years now. Kind of started right when they got into Lake Point. So been with them since the beginning. Did a little bit of tournament stuff, did a little bit of scouting stuff, and then took over as a scouting director last spring. So been super excited to get into the scouting stuff, the showcase stuff. Ian's been a great addition for us this spring and throughout. So we'll turn it over to him. I know he just got moved up here from Florida and has been super excited.
Yeah, man, stoked to be here. A little background on me. I've been with Prep Baseball for almost about a year now. I was doing some national stuff before, and now I've been in Georgia since January as assistant scouting director. A bit of a national background, been covering high school and college baseball for the last 5 years pretty extensively. And I just kind of live for this sort of thing. I just love being at games. I love scouting new talent. I love finding new guys, and it's exciting to be around this much talent in the Metro Atlanta area, especially at Lake Point, and just around in Georgia in general. It's just been great to be here and great to get started.
Awesome. Well, I am super excited to get this thing started. So let's get it on the road. And we'll start with the Week 5 Georgia Power 25. And we'll start at the top. Number 1, Parkview. They're 11-2, number 1 team in 7A. This is a team with 10 top 100 Georgia prospects in their respective classes. And with them bouncing back from that loss to Buford in Week 4, winning 3 straight this week against Grayson, what really puts Parkview at the top?
Yeah, I just think it's about the lineup. From 1 through 9, they're going to hit. It starts at the top with Makai Buckley, a Wallace Dothan commit, a senior outfielder. All he does is hit. Makai Buckley is the guy that I really like at the top of the order. If you bring right behind him is the guy, Malachi Washington is a 2026 outfielder. A guy who we're really high on over here at Prep Baseball Georgia. These guys we'll see a bunch this summer. He's come to a few of our events, and he has a really high upside along with a high floor. There's a hit tool, there's a run tool, and he can play a really strong center field. And not to mention maybe the best high school bat in the state right now, Cade Brown. The Georgia commit just continues to hit. He got out 1 time this past week in the outing against in the series against Grayson, not just the outing. 3 games, out 1 time, hit 2 bombs, 8 RBIs. He just hits. He's hit all year long. I believe he's batting over 500 right now and just keeps getting better. Guys behind him, Eli Pitts, another highly ranked guy for us in the 2025 class. And it just goes on and on after that. They have deep pitching, and they're only getting healthier. So the team to beat in 7A and almost in the state right now looks like Parkview, and it just looks like a team that continues to get better.
Yeah, anything you need to add to that, Hudson?
Not yet. I haven't got a chance to get out to see them yet. Ian got to see them for the first time this year. A lot of good matchups. We know we'll be seeing a lot of them in the playoffs. So that's I know Cade Brown can swing it. I know they got some younger guys coming up. They got a freshman on the mound, Andres Jimenez. That's been a guy for him as well. He's one to keep an eye on. Freshman starting on the mound at Parkview is no small task. So it's been cool to see that. But yeah, we'll look forward to seeing them down the road.
Awesome. Well, then let's get into the second team, Lowndes. They're the second-ranked team in 7A. This team, pretty solid roster as well. They've got 5 top 100 Georgia players in their respective classes. They come off their third loss of the season in a game 2 of a series in which they outscored Richmond Hill 24-8. What brings this team back down to number 2 in 7A?
Yeah, I mean, that's the loss to Richmond Hill. It's one of those that is going to stand out. I think they're obviously going for the sweep there in their respective region. The loss to Trinity Christian, that's actually a really good one-run loss for them. I think Trinity Christian was in the top 10 of our prep baseball national rankings as well. So defending state champs, we're excited. We're going to get down to see them hopefully towards the end of the month. Our Florida guys might cover them against that Trinity Christian matchup. So yeah, they're defending state champs. They got guys, Noah Thigpen at the top leading the arms, Matthew Kerrigan, Auburn commit right behind him. He's been a good addition for them both at the plate and on the mound this year. And then you got Ole Miss commit Tate Sermons, who's leading the charge with the bat. Jordan Hudson's another one. So they're similar to Parkview. That you run down the line with them with the bats too, and they got some guys in the pen that have helped them out a lot as well. So really excited to get down to see them towards the end of the month.
Fantastic. Well, let's get into number 3. This is our first team in 6A, Etowah High School. This is my alma mater, so I'm pretty proud of these guys. They're 11-3 right now. They've got 8 top 100 prospects in their classes. And despite the loss to Allatoona, they get 3 wins this week over their down-the-street rival Woodstock. What do you think is the key to Etowah's continued success?
Yeah, I'll just jump right in there. With Etowah, I think the young guys continuing to hit. They're a team that's really dependent on their underclass bats, mainly Deion Cole at third base, really highly ranked 2026 for us, and Trevor Condon, a guy that I'm extremely high on in the class. All he does is hit, very twitchy at the plate. He's continued to look good this spring. He's hitting big moments. I just saw last night he had a big double to win the game from as well. Those are 2 guys that I really think they're leaning on. Matthew Sharman is another 2026 as well. He's huge on the mound, huge at the plate. And now just getting back their big senior leadership with Dimitri Angelakos coming back on the mound this past week after a really strong basketball season. I think getting that addition along with the young talent they have is going to be huge going down the line in a really, really tough region.
Fantastic. Let's talk about Cartersville. They come in at number 4, the number 1 team in 5A. They're 11-3 at the moment. And Coach Kyle Tucker over there is now in his 6th season as the head coach. He's never missed the quarterfinals of the state playoffs with Cartersville, but has yet to win a state championship. What about this team could finally get Coach Tucker and the Hurricanes to state championship?
Yeah, with Cartersville, it's another team. Depth, they've had some guys, almost you want to say the transfer portal, but some guys that transferred over there this spring. Andrew Purdy from Calhoun, another guy, Avery Shiflett, who we haven't seen this spring. He's been injured, but we should be getting back here the next few weeks. They lead the charge alongside Georgia commit Ryan Johnson starting on the mound. The senior has been fantastic this spring. The stuff is way up since what we saw in the fall and summer last year. And it's something that has surprised a lot of scouts on the pro side, and it's been really huge for this Cartersville team. Caleb Daniel leading the lineup, another Georgia commit, the outfielder who's been committed as a catcher, but now showing real tools in center field has been huge for them. All he does is hit. I've said that about a few guys, but it's been true this spring. And Caleb's hitting huge moments. He's shown massive power to all fields. And I think that him continuing to hit along with the depth in that lineup will be huge for Cartersville. Again, in another tough region that should be strong going forward.
Awesome. Anything you could add to that, Hudson?
Yeah, he mentioned some of those transfer guys. Purdy, he's been one that's been really high on a future gamer a couple years ago. Cole Crawford, freshman catcher, highly ranked in the 27 class. He's starting to get some at bats, and I think he had a double the other night I saw. But that's one too that can always spark a late playoff run when those young guys can come in and be beneficial to them. Aiden Larkin, Kentucky commit. He's another one too that is just a steady guy. They just got a bunch of steady bats in the lineup. A bunch of arms that are going to be consistent. Kennesaw State commit Sawyer Wilson. He's been as steady as they come over the summer and carried that into this spring.
Awesome. Well, let's get into number 5 here. It's Stars Mill at 11-1. They're the number 1 team in 4A. Ian, I know you've gotten a chance to go out and see them. What puts a 4A Stars Mill ahead of some of the top teams in the higher divisions?
I mentioned Parkview being a really deep lineup, but when you talk about Starsville, I think it may be the deepest lineup in the state. From top to bottom, it's full of D1 commits. It starts with Bo Walker at the beginning, along with Max Prosney. Bo Walker going to Georgia Tech, Prosney going to Virginia as both a football and a baseball player. Heath Whitlock bats in between them and has shown massive power to all fields this spring. I've seen Stars Mill twice, and he's shown opposite field homers in both games. The game before I saw him, he went out as a field homer again. The power has just been pretty outlandish for a guy going to Mississippi State, and it's just been huge at the top of that lineup. Behind that, you got guys like Drew Richardson, who's going to Middle Tennessee State, and Austin Sellers going to Georgia State. Jack Ryan, an uncommitted senior who's hit just as well as any of these other bats that are going to all these D1 colleges. It just gets deeper and deeper as you get down the line. Then you have underclassmen like sophomore Brock Rain, who's going to Georgia. There's guys everywhere you look on this team. The pitching has been really timely, to say it best, this spring. They get outs when they need it, they hit when they need it, and it's just been a team that knows how to win and is getting stronger as the spring goes. And I just don't see how they can't stack up with any team in 4A and almost any team in the state.
Awesome. Well, number 6, we have Cherokee Bluff, another team in 4A. They come in second in that division. They're 12-2. This is the second straight 4A team on the list. How close of a gap is it really between Stars Mill and Cherokee Bluff for that top ranking in 4A?
All right. Cherokee Bluff, they're definitely one on the list that we're getting to see here in the next couple weeks. They have 2 really big series coming up against East Forsyth and North Hall. So those are definitely can't miss matchups for us. But yeah, I think their depth and experience is something that I think that's going to keep them in it. They had a really big run last year. I believe they went into maybe the mid-teens being undefeated. So that's obviously a big task in the state of Georgia for high school baseball. But yeah, they got some guys on the mound, Tucker Holden, and then Gabe Gowder kind of leading the way. And then you got Georgia Southern commit KT Thompson at the plate. Caleb Meal is another one at the plate. So I think they're similar to Stars Mill. I think they have depth just like them. I think their depth on the mound is what's going to carry them into the playoffs. So they're definitely one to, keep an eye on as we move into some of these bigger region series the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Well, number 7 is Houston County at 13-3. They're the number 2 team in 6A, and this school is littered all over the Georgia player rankings, but you don't find many players at the top. Ian, what do you think is the driving force behind their success early in the season?
I'm actually going to turn this one over to Hudson. He's got a little bit more knowledge on Houston County than I do in this one. Not to double up with Hudson here, but their South Georgia team that's been loaded the last few years. Actually, just to touch on Houston County before I headed over to Hudson, I was out at Georgia Tech this weekend. I saw a big Houston County alum, and Drew Burris hitting his 11th homer of the weekend, but ended up hitting 2 more, and now second in the nation as a freshman with 13 home runs. And the power he's been showing as a freshman has just been outlandish. But I'll digress on that and pass it over to Hudson here for some Houston County.
They've definitely been one of our favorites the last couple of years. I got down there a couple times last year, and we plan on getting down there for the Tift County doubleheader coming up, which will pretty much decide that region. Will Allen, a junior right-handed pitcher that's leading the way for them. He's been a great addition to the lineup or to the pitching rotation for Coach Hopkins. He's been up to 92. Pretty much going scoreless every time out, striking out like 8 to 12 guys. So he's been lights out for them. And then they got another junior, future gamer Vic Gann, that's been big for them. Twitchy guy, 6'6" runner, gonna play a good outfield for them. And then Kendall Jackson's another junior that's kind of stepped into the lineup this year. Didn't see a lot of time last year just because they were so deep, but he's been a great addition. I think he's batting near 500 this year, another 6'6" runner in the outfield. So they're going to compete time in and time out. They got freshman Isaiah Gallison, who is a junior future gamer for us. That's honestly one of my favorite guys in the 27 class. So we're super excited to get down to see them. I know that Will Allen's kind of carrying their pitching rotation along with Carson Small, Pensacola State commit. So really excited to get down there to see them in that Tift County series.
Awesome. Well, let's get into number 8. It's North Cobb Christian. They're 12-1, number 1 team in 2A. Despite playing in 2A, they find themselves in the top 10. What do you think is the biggest factor in their placement this high on the Power 25?
I think they're led by 2 massive Georgia commits. Again, I've been talking about Georgia commits all day. It seems like I see one every night. But Asher's Obama on the mound and Michael Molinax in the field. Molinax is one of the best players in the 2024 class. He's the top outfielder. He's a plus runner. He's shown plus power so far this spring. He's shown a good hit tool. He's a switch hitter. Continues to hit. He's really minimalized things at the plate this year after kind of the struggles over the summer, and now has really turned himself in and really just started to skyrocket his draft stock again after, like I said, a struggle over the summer, and it's really led this team at the plate. Asher's a bomb. on the mound, up to 90-92 with a really good slider and a changeup. He's a guy who really stood out for us at Prep Baseball Georgia over the fall, and just it's only gotten better this spring. He's a real pitchability guy, doesn't allow loud contact, really gives up a bunch of ground balls, lets his infield work behind him, gets swing and miss on the slider, and the changeup just gets end zone misses pretty consistently. Those two guys leading the charge in a tough 2A division is really what sets them apart among teams in the top 10.
Awesome. Well, right behind them, we have another private school, this time Prince Avenue Christian. They're 11-0, number 1 in 1A Division 1. They're the first undefeated team on the list. How do you guys value an undefeated 1A Division 1 team versus maybe a team with a couple losses in a higher division?
Yeah, I think Prince Avenue's definitely proven themselves over the year with their state championship last year. I think they're starting to play more higher classification teams. Like they played Gainesville this year and beat them. So it's definitely hard to do, but it's one of those things to where we evaluate kind of their depth throughout, which is probably one of the biggest separators in the classification. Obviously, having a bigger pool to pull from in the higher classes. But yeah, I got to see them last weekend, and they're going to hit. Judson Hartwell's leading the way for them. Georgia Tech commit, future gamer. Will Goff is right behind him. Wingate commit. So them two had, I think, 6 of their 7 hits when I got to see them against Kings Ridge. It was actually a really good 3-2 game. Chandler DeBloy for Kings Ridge threw really well against them. But yeah, they have Mason Banks is their kind of key arm, left-handed pitcher going to Belmont Abbey. And then they got some guys that could definitely pop up and lead them to another state championship. Hudson Hill is leading the way as a freshman for them at the top of the lineup. He had some good ABs, no hits to show for the other night, but he's definitely one that we're going to keep an eye on in the 27 class. But yeah, they're going to hit. They got guys throughout the order. Eli Attaway, Dylan White's a sophomore that's kind of being a role guy in the infield that could be a big piece for him down the road. Luke Burnett's over at shortstop for him, an uncommitted junior that's had a really strong showing throughout the summer at Lakepoint. So they're on their way to another state championship, in my opinion. I think if they can get another piece on the mound to kind of come together, then they're right where they want to be.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about number 10, Harlem. They come in, they're 6-0, number 1 in 3A. They've got the most wins in the state. They remain undefeated. Any insight on, what the source is for this early success for them?
Yeah, we that's another one on the list to get down to see. Planning to catch some Augusta guys here in the next couple weeks. Georgia Southern commit Will Holder leads the way for them on the mound. He was one of my favorite guys I saw last spring on the mound. Just really consistent, super projectable, mid-80s, going to throw strikes. So I think that's the name of their game is their consistency on the mound. They got a few other guys. Steven Harshberger's another one, kind of leading the offense for them. So we'll kind of see where they're at once we get a chance to see them in person. But they usually take care of business early in the year and in their region down there.
Awesome. Well, at 11 and 12, just outside the top 10, we have Tift County at 12 and 1. They're the number 3 team at 6A, and then after them, Marist at 12 and 1. They're number 4 in 6A. And despite how low they find themselves here, they're right outside the top 10. What creates the gap between the likes of Houston County and Etowah near the top that have 3 losses in 6A, but still find themselves up there, and then these teams like Tift County and Marist to find themselves a little bit lower down the list?
Yeah, I think that's just some of the competition that they're playing. Obviously, there's really no small task in Georgia baseball. All the guys are solid across the board. But I think like Etowah's loss coming from Cartersville in a one-run game, we take that into consideration. Tift and Houston, they kind of take care of most of their region series. Both have swept every region game they've played so far. So that's kind of where we're looking, some of those separators. The regions are a bit stronger at the top for Etowah and guys up there. So that's probably the biggest thing is just the region strength of region schedule. But like I said, we're looking to get down there for that Houston County TIF series. TIF is they're similar to Houston County. A lot of the same pieces return. I think TIF really returned almost everyone in their lineup and on the mound pretty much. So John Davis, Georgia Southern commit, future gamer, one of my favorite guys I saw last year. He's actually leading the charge on the mound for him with over 20 innings pitched. I think he has 1 earned run given up. So he's a left-handed arm that's been leading the way for them. And then John Dorman's right behind him on the mound, a righty that I actually got to see last year in the series down in Warner Robins. So he's a consistent righty, mid-80s, going to throw strikes. And then you got Will Pridgeton, who's their third starter, another smaller right-handed arm. Arm really works. He's going to throw strikes as well. So their lineups pretty exciting, especially with the guys that they have returning. And we did a little rising, top 25 risers little piece last week, and two of their top guys are towards the bottom in batting average, which is actually really surprising. So that's a good thing for them moving into the big region play against Houston County. But Brady Moret's East Georgia commit. He's a senior that plays shortstop for them. And then Mac Brooks and Landon Parrish are two other juniors that have really been hitting for them. And then you have Tyler Van Sumeren, sophomore Kennesaw State commit, who's one of our top left-handed bats in the 26 class. And then John Davis, obviously being a two-way talent, he's actually kind of heating up, starting to catch fire at the plate, kind of finding his rhythm. So once he kind of gets rolling, that's kind of their core guys. It's pretty much the same guys as last year. So they're super experienced. So that series at Houston County is going to be a really, really good one.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about number 13, North Hall. They come in at 13-2, number 3 in 4A. Anything you guys could touch on that kind of puts them here right around the middle of the pack with the Power 25?
Yeah, that's another one that I got to see last week. North Hall, similar to Tift and Houston, they're really well coached. When I got down to North Hall, it's like a college facility. They got a full coaching staff, really professional. So they carry a high standard there. So I think that's one of the things leading to their success. And then after that, they just have tough out after tough out in their lineup. So we start off with A.J. Jones, Kennesaw State commit, future gamer a couple years ago, can absolutely fly. He's looking to get on base. He's looking to go first to third in a couple pitches. So it's just really hard to defend against teams like that have that kind of weapon at the top. And then John Reed is a senior playing shortstop for him that seemingly is in player of the week consideration every week when coaches submit notes. He's getting 4, 5, 6 hits a week. He didn't have anything to show for the game I got to see him, but he's one of the top uncommitted seniors in the state by far. And then as you move down the order, you have Luke Sanders, who just came back from basketball, an uncommitted senior that plays third base over next to John Reeves. And those guys aren't going to miss a ball if it's hitting their direction. Sanders had a couple backhand plays that saved a couple doubles against the East Forsyth in the East Forsyth series, where North Hall ended up etching that one out 2-1 in that region series. So I think North Hall's got some pieces. Kenny Foudy behind the plate, Caleb Sexton on the mound, left-handed arm in the 26 class that can go toe-to-toe with I think anyone in the state. He's gonna compete. He's gonna throw strikes. It's up into the mid-80s. So that's really what stands them apart, is I think that is just their kind of pace of play. But yeah, North Hall, they ended up getting East Forsyth in the series, but they'll have Cherokee Bluff coming to town here in the next couple weeks. So that'll be one to definitely see.
So next we get into this group of 4 7A teams that find themselves a little bit lower down the list. At 14, Brookwood, 15, North Gwinnett, and at 16, North Paulding, 17, Buford. What creates the 12-spot gap between a number 2 team like 7A Lowndes and this group of 4 teams in the same division?
Well, I think this group here all has their certain strengths, but they all also have their weaknesses as well. Just apart from the teams at the top, like Parkview and Lowndes, where Lowndes is pretty solid throughout their lineup. There's depth in all spots. These teams, like a team like Brookwood, who might have the best rotation in the state, led by Charlie Foster, Jackson Barbary, and Clinton Harris, but their lineup is not as deep as somebody like Lowndes or Parkview. And same thing with a team like North Gwinnett, really deep lineup, but the pitching might not be as deep as some of those teams. And as you go on down the line, North Paulding maybe have the best depth in overall, but they're not hitting as well as everybody else. There's a little bit of separation between those teams just on those fronts. But those teams also have the capabilities of putting it all together and being one of the better teams at the end of the year. Buford is one of the best teams in the state each and every year. They have guys like Cannon Golden, who's one of the top players, 2025. They have guys like Ethan Murray, who's going to Georgia Tech. They have Nate Taylor going to Georgia, a senior on the mound. They're loaded as well. So there's talent with those 4 teams, but just putting it all together is what we need to see to make them put them in that upper echelon of 7A with Lowndes and Parkview.
Our next team at 18 is LaGrange. And Ian, I know you've gotten a chance to see these guys play. What's a
Absolutely.
big part of why they sit here in the Power 25?
There's just a bunch of grit when you talk about Lagrange. They know how to win. They go out there and play the game the right way. They don't make silly errors. They don't make stupid mistakes. They're not walking six guys in an inning. You're not throwing balls away. They have some good top bats at the top of the lineup. Georgia Southern commit Tanner Langley looked really good in my look last week. It's a really hitterish look in the box. It's not going to expand the plate. Going to really give you a tough at bat every time. Behind that, Robbie Parker. It looks really good as well. Same with, Robbie Parker as well. And Rob Skinner looked really good as well. And then a sophomore behind the plate, Mason Calhoun, is somebody who really stood out for me with this team. He blocked really well, received really well, and then showed a really strong hit toward the plate, laced a few balls into the gaps, went backside a few times. It was just a strong look. And like I said, they played a team in Stars Mill and battled it to the end. It took Stars Mill to have some really timely, big time swings at the end of win. And if not, it wasn't for that, LaGrange had a chance to win going down to the end.
Our next team at 19 is Walton, sitting at 8-5, number 7 and 7A. What is it about Walton that keeps them here in the Power 25 despite having 5 losses?
Yeah, to touch on Walton a little bit, I think it's just terms of talent. Walton's in a tough matchup every single night. They've had one of the toughest schedules in the state so far this spring. They're playing a team that's got double-digit wins almost every night now as we get into region play. They've just had some tough losses. They've had some bad errors at the end of games that have really hurt them. They've been in every game. They're not in blowout losses. So the 5 losses may look bad on paper, but they're not in these games getting blown out by teams. They have the talent to win in the long run. They have deep pitching. They have a deep lineup. So giving Walnut still the benefit of the doubt at this time point in the year is easy to do just because of the terms of talent and the teams that they're playing.
I'm going to run through the next couple of teams. Number 20, Blessed Trinity. Number 21, Mount Parent Christian. Number 22, Noonan. Because I want to talk about number 23 here, Villa Rica. They're 14-0. They're number 2 and 5A. Can you tell me why they find themselves a little bit lower than some may think?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those scheduling matchups there. I think that we'll get to see them. We're kind of going through schedules. They're coming to Woodstock in April. So that'll be a great test to kind of see where they stack up. I think that teams like that, I think that once they get hot in their region and some of the midweeks that they play, I think they just keep rolling. I know they got some guys. We got to see some guys at the West Georgia campus tour this fall with them. So that's one that we have circled to see where they're at and see what all that they have in the tank.
Awesome. So I want to talk about our 24th overall team, Greater Atlanta Christian. They're 12-2, number 3 and 5A. And along with Villa Rica, they find themselves right at the edge of the Power 25. Meanwhile, their 5A counterparts, Cartersville, find themselves far ahead. What do you think is a big factor in Greater Atlanta Christian's placement here?
Yeah, I think Greater Atlanta Christian is just now starting to put together. They're recently just making our 25, this top 25 this past week. This is their first time making the Power 25 all throughout the year. The wins are starting to look better. They're led by a guy in Conrad Kaysen on the mound and at the plate, going to Georgia as well. Again, we're talking about Georgia commits, but he's looked good all year long, leading them both ways of the way. Sophomore Jackson DeBose has been an extremely impressive hitter for them so far this year. He's starting to show power, and it's a really projectable frame. And I think they're a team that just, as they get stronger as the year goes, they might start to push themselves in the Cartersville echelon. But as of right now, they're just now starting to get things rolling. So it's just you're getting them on the Power 25, and you're seeing what they can do. And now, as we get in the region play, we see what things turn out to be.
Our list rounds out with Pickens County at number 25, but on the outside looking in, we have Marietta, East Forsyth, Harrison, Redden, Pepperell, and Franklin County. Is there a particular team that you guys are looking for to hop into the Power 25 next week?
I think East Forsyth and Marietta are probably the two biggest. Marietta continues to have a solid record. We got to see them at Georgia Dugout Club, and they definitely have some pieces. So I think they've been kind of in consideration the last couple weekends. But having them string together a couple more wins in a row, I think, can push them in there. And getting Villa Rica and GAC in there are two teams that are kind of getting a new look. We'll kind of see how they do the next couple weeks. And then Pickens, I got to see them last week. And they got some guys, Connor Schaus, Georgia Tech commit, leading the way for them, along with sophomore AJ Rice on the mound. So they're one of the picks there. Franklin County just fell out, but them two are going to battle towards the end of the season.
All right. Well, that's going to round out our Week 5 Georgia Power 25. Now, let's get a little bit more of a look into what you guys are doing week to week and talk about some of the games that you guys have gotten the chance to watch over the last week. Hudson, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so started the week off with East Forsyth versus North Hall. This was their first region matchup against each other. Obviously, both having great records coming in, so this was kind of definitely a series with some anticipation in it. And right off the bat, the pitching matchup was great. Trey Farr versus Caleb Sexton, both left-handed pitchers. Farr's a junior, and then Sexton's a sophomore. So really good matchup there. I was really excited to see both of them. Farr was a big standout at Georgia Dugout Club at the plate, and actually came up with a big go-ahead double in the later innings. But one guy for East Forsyth that I think is going to surprise some people in the next couple of years, Matthew Lyons, an uncommitted senior, plays outfield, hits, and actually got up on the mound to close at Georgia Dugout Club and was like up to 92. So he's one that's definitely opening some eyes in the senior class. But yeah, really exciting matchup. Actually ended with Mills Lothridge hitting a go-ahead home run in the sixth inning to win 4-2. So electric atmosphere. East Forsyth came back and tied the series in game 2, and then North Hall ended up taking it in game 3.
Wow, that's great. Ian, what about you? What games did you get a chance to see this week?
Yeah, I just got like such a FOMO with games, man. I can't help myself from going. But yeah, I was out able to catch 5 games this past week. A couple college games, we won't get into that. But it started off with the game of Pope and West Forsyth, which was North Forsyth and Pope. I've seen so many Forsyths this week that it's been a little bit hard to keep track of. But I was going to see a good look at a guy who was a future gamer last year and playing shortstop for Pope, and that's Sean Stetzer. It's a guy I think is going to really explode up rankings, both draft boards, 2025 class rankings, state rankings. He's just a guy who just looks the part. He's became way more physical over the year. He's a plus runner, maybe above average, we'll say. Above average runner. He hits for power. He shows a great approach to the plate. He doesn't, again, another guy who doesn't chase, shows really good bat to ball skills as well, and shows really strong actions at shortstop after playing a lot of center field last year, played a lot of third base. Hasn't been a true shortstop for most of his career, and now looks the part already and could really improve his stock overall by doing that. Underclass guy who stood out for me in this game was Drew Abney at the backstop for Pope. As a guy who stood out from us at some showcases earlier in the spring and in the fall, and really showed a strong hit tool and some power. He had a ball about 350 bull side just foul that was quite outlandish in the at bat. It was 2 strikes and just showed some bat speed and some leverage that really exploded through the zone. And that was really 2 guys that really stood out and made me excited for my trip to Pope. But yeah, another guy I was able to see this week, a guy that we're extremely high on here at Prep Baseball Georgia, is Reed Worley, right-hander from Cherokee, a junior committed to Kennesaw State. He was facing a really good, decent lineup for North Cobb that has an extremely good hitter at the top of the lineup, and Jay Abernathy, who's just the top bat in our 2024 class. But talking about Worley, it was an outstanding performance, going 6 shutout innings, striking out 12. He's working out of a windup now, which is a brand new development for Worley. He's always been a stretch guy leading up to this. Now he's working out of the windup. He's throwing 2 fastballs with the 4-seam and the sinker, and the sweeper is probably a plus pitch right now. He's up to 82 with it. It gets a ton of sweep through the zone with some horizontal movement and depth. He got swing and misses whenever he wanted throughout the outing. It was quite impressive. He threw the changeup very sparingly, but that's a pitch that I think could be an above average offering for him. And the stuff is just getting better as we move throughout the spring, as well as the body at 6'2", 180 is only going to get more physical and throw harder. So I think that's a guy who has upside, probably as high as anybody in our 2025 rankings.
Let's get into you guys' top performers of the week. Hudson, we'll start with you.
We're going to go with Caleb Sexton, sophomore at North Hall. Went CG against East Forsyth, a pretty tough lineup. Worked out of some jams, too. Had a bunt error to lead off an inning and ended up working back, and the guy was on third base with less than 2 outs and ended up getting out of it. So we'll go with Caleb Sexton. I know he's going to keep throwing this year. Funny enough, last year at this time, he gave Cherokee Bluff their first loss of the season. So just ultra competitor on the mound, just really knows how to win ball games.
That's fantastic. Ian, what about yourself?
Yeah, my performance on the mound this week was Reed Worley. I mentioned a minute ago, but it was a guy who just really continues to look the part as a starting pitcher who's going to be a starting pitcher at the next level, whether it's as a pro or at the college level. He worked out of some jams, given up a couple of hits on a couple of walks. Nothing was hit hard. Again, like I mentioned, 12 strikeouts. He had over 20 whiffs on the day, which was impressive. Like the sweeper was good, the fastball was good, and he's just a guy who we want to see keep performing to the upside that he has. And on the mound, I'm just going to just roll into this. I keep going here. Sorry, my performance at the plate Another guy, just because I want to be quick, that I mentioned earlier, Cade Brown. His week at Grayson was just pretty outlandish, I would say. He was out the plate 10 times. He was on base 9 of those times. His one time out was a hard hit smoke ball at the shortstop. That was a tough play. Hit 2 bombs, bunch of RBIs, stole some bases. I think he's got up to 15 stolen bases this year, which is surprising for a guy who's known as a big body first base and third baseman, but now showing some movement and some lightness on his feet and really improving his stock this spring. So they're 2 guys that really stood out this week for me.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of wrap this thing up, talk about what we've got going on. So this weekend at Lakepoint, we've got prep baseball, March Madness going on Friday through Sunday. So we've got 11U, 12U, 13U, 14U happening there. And then starting up on Monday here at Lakepoint, we've got the prep baseball spring break experience. We got high school teams from all around the country, varsity and JV, going to be here. Schools from Pennsylvania, Illinois, Wisconsin, Alabama, Ohio, Kentucky, Missouri, and of course Georgia. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I got a chance to actually coordinate this event the last couple of years before stepping into the scouting director role. So it's a really cool event. You get to create some unique matchups with these teams, and most of the time it's these guys' first time at Lakepoint. I know there's guys that come play in the summer here with their travel ball teams, but it's just cool to see the look on the coaches' faces when they walk up and see the facility and see the fields. They're always super grateful. We let them get practices in. They play games against guys they're not going to see. So definitely a cool event that we run here at Lakepoint Sports.
Fantastic. Any other events going on in the prep baseball Georgia world in the future?
Yeah, so we already got our top prospect games rolling, which is kind of our 2 premier events of the summer. Underclass is taking place June 4th and 5th, and then upper class is taking place June 11th. So our future games team is pretty much solely picked from these. Obviously, there's spring performances and summer performances, but more times than not, these guys are coming to this event. Underclass, we're rolling out a 2-day event this year, which is a first-timer for us. So we'll have a showcase on the 4th, and then we'll roll into games on the 5th. Always a great coaches turnout, and then obviously competing for those future game spots. And then the upper class on June 11th, our inaugural kind of 17U future games team. We're looking to identify players for that. So get in there early. Those events are going to sell out. We're already, creeping into the triple digits on underclass. So it's going to be a really, really awesome event for us. But we got some open events at the end of May to check out. Rising Stars on May 29th. 13U, 14U guys, come get a chance to represent Georgia on the junior future games team. So those are kind of the 3 big events we're looking at right now. Got a couple more in the works, but stay tuned on Prep Baseball Georgia's website. We're always adding events and news articles and Power 25 content. So be sure to check in on those each week.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me here. This was super fun. Going to keep doing this every week, getting the updates, staying in tune with everything going on in Georgia for high school baseball. For now, make sure you guys are following Prep Baseball Georgia and Lakepoint on all social media. And then, of course, make sure you're following these guys, Ian and Hudson. I'm going to put their Twitters down in the description of the YouTube video. These guys are putting out great content, scouting for Georgia. So thank you guys for joining me. And this was PeachFuzz. Thank you.